If you ask any Christian how heaven would be, any believer who regularly reads Bible would answer you perfectly because Bible clearly describes about heaven. But if you ask an atheist how heaven would be, there is no reference, no belief, no expectation. That is where this story makes extraordinary. A 4-year-old girl raised in a home where Jesus was never spoken about, God was never discussed, and faith was never taught. Akiane Kramarik was born on July 9, 1994, in Mount Morris, Illinois, USA. Her family was not religious. There were no Bible stories at home, no church visits, no prayers. Yet at the age of just 4, Akiane began having vivid visions. She described a place filled with light, peace, and colors she had never seen before. And above all, she spoke about Jesus not as a story she learned, but as a person she said she saw. She described his face with deep emotion. She said his eyes were filled with life, love, and authority. But she did not paint him immediately. For 4 years, Akiane said she prayed and waited, asking God to help her paint the true face she had seen in her visions. She tried many times but felt it was never right. Then one day she said God answered her prayer. A humble carpenter came into her life, and the moment Akiane saw his face, she said it matched exactly the image of Jesus she had seen in heaven. At just 8 years old, in the year 2002, Akiane completed the painting and titled it Prince of Peace. She later said, I was guided by God's hand. The painting itself carries deep symbolism. One side of Jesus' face is shone in light, representing truth and holiness. The other side is in shadow, representing the brokenness and suffering of the world. Yet, even in the shadow, there is light in his eye, showing that Jesus is present even in darkness. The original painting went through hardship. It was sold without Akiane's permission and disappeared for many years. After about 16 years, the original artwork was finally recovered. In 2019, the original Prince of Peace painting was sold to private collector for $850,000. Today, the original is preserved with great care while millions of prints have gone across the world, touching hearts in homes, churches, and hospitals. Around the same time in Nebraska, a little boy named Colton Burpo, born May 19, 1999, was rushed into emergency surgery after his appendix ruptured. When doctors inexplicably missed 4-year-old Colton Burpo's burst appendix and the resulting infection nearly took his life, his father railed at God as Colton's life seemed to slip away. Pastor Todd Burpo found a small room in the hospital after Colton was taken into surgery, and he unloaded some raw emotions toward heaven. After Colton's surgery and a time in ICU, the fair haired boy made a remarkable recovery. Colton's parents realized something very unusual happened to Colton as doctors fought to save his life. Colton shared with his parents that he left his body in the hospital and visited heaven, where he sat on Jesus' lap and met departed family members along with other remarkable details. He said he watched his father praying for his life in the small room. In heaven, Colton was taken under wing by his departed great grandfather, a man he never met who passed away when his father was only a boy. He also met a sister he never knew who was miscarried by his mother. And then Colton spoke about Jesus. He described his face, his eyes, and a love so overwhelming he could not fully explain it. Years later, after being shown many artistic pictures of Jesus, Colton's father showed him one final image. It was Akiane's Prince of Peace. Colton looked at it and said simply, That's him, that's Jesus. This happened about 3 years after the painting was completed. Think about this carefully. A young girl with no religious background paints Jesus after years of prayer. A little boy who nearly died describes the same Jesus after a visit to heaven. They never met, they never influenced each other, yet their stories connect through one face, through one testimony. Some say it's coincidence, but Jesus himself said, "You will know them by their fruits." And the fruit of these stories is clear. Millions have turned back to faith. Millions have found hope. Millions have been reminded that heaven is real and Jesus is alive. Akiane continues to say her gift came from God. Colton, now grown, still boldly says, "I know heaven is real." Maybe that's why Jesus said, "Unless you become like little children, you will never enter the kingdom of heaven." Because sometimes the purest eyes see what the world refuses to believe. Jesus is alive, heaven is real, and the Prince of Peace still speaks today.